Peace. This is a special edition of Live from the Light, new book reading. It's that time. Peace. Welcome to the YouTube live book reading of The African Origin of Civilization, Myth or Reality by Dr. Cheikh Anta. Peace, YouTube. This is a special edition. Yes, and why? Well, there's plenty of reasons why. But one of the main reasons is we're moving into a new chapter. So that's a level up. We have some amazing news and work that we've put in the last few days. So some amazing, spectacular moments occurred. Yeah. So, peace, YouTube. We pick up with the 11th chapter, page 230 of this book and reading. Let's go. Let's switch them up. Divine Rising. Welcome. All right. The chapter number 11, Contribution of Ethiopia, Nubia, and Egypt. Page 230. Contribution of Ethiopia, Nubia, and Egypt. Let's begin. According to the unanimous testimony of the ancients, first the Ethiopians and then the Egyptians created and raised to an extraordinary stage of development all the elements of civilization, while other peoples, especially the Eurasians, were still deep in barbarism. The explanation for this must be sought in the material condition in which the accident of geographic had placed them at the beginning of time. For man to adapt these conditions required the invention of sciences, complemented by the creation of arts and religion. It is impossible to stress all that the world, particularly the Hellenistic world, owed to the Egyptians. The Greeks merely continued and developed, sometimes partially, what the Egyptians had invented. By virtue of their materialistic tendencies, the Greeks stripped those inventions of the religious, idealistic shell in which the Egyptians had enveloped them. On the one hand, the rugged life of the Eurasian plains apparently intensified the materialistic instinct of the peoples living there. On the other hand, it forged moral values diametrically opposite to Egyptian moral values, which stemmed from the collective, sedentary, relatively easy, peaceful life. Once it had been once it had been regulated by a few social laws. To the extent that the Egyptians were horrified by theft, nomadism, and war, to the same extent, these practices were deemed highly moral on the Eurasian plains. Only a warrior killed on the battlefield could enter Valhalla, the Germanic paradise. Among the Egyptians, no felicity was possible except for the deceased, who could prove at the tribunal of Osiris that he had been charitable to the poor and had never sinned. This was the antithesis of the spirit of rapine and conquest that generally characterized the peoples of the North, driven, in a sense, away from country, unfavored by nature. In contrast, existence was so easy in the valley of the Nile, a veritable Garden of Eden between two deserts that the Egyptians tended to believe that nature's benefits poured down from the sky. They finally adored it in the form of the omnipotent being, creator of all that exists and dispenser of blessings. Their early materialism, in other words, their vitalism, would henceforth become a materialism transposed to the sky, a metaphysical materialism, if one may call it that. On the contrary, the horizon of the Greek were never to pass beyond material, visible man, the conqueror of hostile nature. On the earth, everything gravitated around him. The supreme objective of art was to reproduce his exact likeness. In the heavens, paradoxically, he alone was to be found with his earthly faults and weaknesses beneath the shell of gods distinguished from ordinary mortals only by physical strength. Thus, when the Greek borrowed the Egyptian god, a real god in the full sense of the word, provided with all the moral perfections that stem from sedentary life, he could understand that deity only by reducing him to the level of man. Peace, divine rising, highest heart love. Welcome, YouTube. We are picking up in the 11th chapter of the African origin of civilization, myth or reality by Dr. Cheikh Anta, translated and edited by Mercer Cook. And I'm your moderator and narrator, Uriel Riley. Divine days and nights. Yeah, this portal and meditation had me in. I had to, I had to keep going, and I kept traveling. So that's why it was like I'm fully charged up. All right, now let's go shine some light. So we're going to have a magnificent day today, aren't we? I know it. New chapter. And like I said, this is a special reading. Chapter 11, page 231, in the middle is where we are right now. Consequently, the adoptive pantheon of the Greek was merely another humanity. This anthropomorphism is the particular case, was but an acute materialism. It was characteristic of the Greek mind. Strictly speaking, the Greek miracle does not exist, for if we try to analyze the process of adapting Egyptian values to Greece, there is obviously nothing miraculous about it. in the intellectual sense of the term. At most, we can say that friend, that trend toward materialism that was characterized the West was favorable to scientific development. Once they had borrowed Egyptian values, the worldly genius of the Greeks, emanating basically from the Eurasian plains and from their religious indifference, favored the existence of a secular, worldly science, taught publicly by equally worldly philosophers. This science was no longer a monopoly of a priestly group to be jealously guarded and kept from the people, lest it be lost in social upheavals. The power and prestige of the mind, which everywhere else exercised their invisible empire alongside of military force, were not in the hands of the priests, nor of government officials among the Greeks, but in the hands of researcher and the thinker, as was already visibly the case with Thales, Pythagoras, and Epicletus. The intellectual could become the center of a circle in a school, an academy, or the living community of an order, drawing nearer first to one, then to the other, setting scientific, moral, and political goals, and trying it all together to form a philosophical tradition. Page 232. We just started a new chapter, Contributions of Ethiopia, Nubia, and Egypt, talking about the ancient world, and this is the African origin of civilization, myth, or reality. Page 300 or 232 at the top. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Peace. Scientific philosophical teaching was dispensed by laymen, distinguished from the common people only by the intellectual level or social status. No saintly halo encompassed them. In Isis and Osiris, Plutarch reported that, according to the testimony of all Greek scholars, the philosophers taught by the Egyptians, the latter were careful about secularizing their knowledge. Solon, Thales, Plato, Lycurgus, Pythagoras encountered difficulty before being accepted as students by the Egyptians. Still, according to Plutarch, the Egyptians preferred Pythagoras because of his mystical temperament. Reciprocally, Pythagoras was one of the Greeks who most revered the Egyptians. The foregoing is a conclusion of a passage in which Plutarch explains the esoteric significance of the name Aman, Aman, that which is hidden, invisible. Awesome. Here we go. This is the passage. All right. As Amelino observes, it is strange that we do not place more stress on the Egyptian contribution to civilization. This is big right here. Major. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I then realized clearly that the most famous Greek systems, notably those of Plato and Aristotle, had originated in Egypt. I also realized that the lofty genius of the Greeks had been able to present Egyptian ideas incomparably, especially in Plato. But I thought that we loved in the Greeks, we should not scorn or simply disdain in the Egyptians. Today, When two authors collaborate, the credit for the work in common is shared equally by each. I fail to see why ancient Greece should reap all the honor for ideas she borrowed from Egypt. See? See? That's why reading matters. Down at the bottom of page 232 of this 11th chapter, Amenano also points out that if certain of Plato's ideas have become obscure, it is because we fail to place them in the context of their Egyptian source. This is the case, for example, with Plato's ideas on the creation of the world by the demiurge. We know, moreover, that Pythagoras, Thales, Solon, Archimedes, and Eratosthenes, among others, were trained in Egypt. Egypt was indeed the classic land where two-thirds of the Greek scholars went to study. In reality, it can be said that during the Hellenistic epoch, Alexandria was the intellectual center of the world. Assembled there were all the Greek scholars we talk about today. The fact that they were trained outside of Greece in Egypt could never be overemphasized. That's definitely a pin drop. Look at all spiritual energy. Wow. Told you I've been meditating a lot last 3 days, raising the light everywhere. It's just become such a powerful ode, if you will, of how when you stay on the path, focused energy vibrates high. So I was mowing the lawn yesterday, and trimming edges and side. I just look up and I didn't see anything at first. This is the lesson. So I looked up, just sweeping up and, trimming, and then look up more, all the way up. And I see two hawks flying right over top of me, looking all the way up. And see, that's the key about with the sunlight, too, because it's rising, rising, rising. And at certain parts of the day, it's just directly over top of you. So you have to look all the way up. Master Gem. All right. We had to put in there because if they're scholars and greatest scholars are being trained somewhere else on this esoteric information, that means somewhere else before them perfected it long before them. Right? So we have to put it in there. And I'll read that last line again just because. The fact that they were trained outside of Greece in Egypt could never be overemphasized. Even Greek architecture has its roots in Egypt. As early as the 12th dynasty, Proto-Doric columns are found Egyptian cliff tombs of Beni Hassan. Greco-Roman monuments are mere miniatures as compared with Egyptian monuments. Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, with all of its towers, could easily be placed in the hypostyle hall of the Temple of Karnak. That's how massive. That's how massive. Mm, mm, mm. The Greek Parthenon could fit into those walls even more easily. The typically Negro or Cushite, as Lenormand writes, kind of fable with animals as characters was introduced into Greece by the Egyptian Negro, Aesop, who was to inspire the fables of the Frenchman La Fontaine. Edgar Allan Poe, in some words, with a mummy, presents a symbolic idea of the scope of scientific and technical knowledge in ancient Egypt. From Egyptian priests, Herodotus had received information revealing the basic mathematical data on the Great Pyramid of Cheops. Several mathematicians and astronomers have produced works on that pyramid. Their sensational revelations have not failed to unleash a flood of arguments which, as expected, are not expressed in the form of a coherent scientific account. Without venturing into what might be considered excessive pyramidology, we can cite the following. Astronomers have noted in the Great Pyramid indications of the sidereal year, the anomalistic year, the processions of the equinoxes for 6,000 years, whereas modern astronomy knows them for only about 400 years. Mathematicians have detected in it the exact value of pi, the exact average distance between the sun and the earth, the polar diameter of the earth, and so on. We could prolong the list by citing even more impressive statistics. Could this result from mere chance? As Matila C. Geika writes, that would be inconceivable. Any single one of these items could be a coincidence, but for all them to be fortuitous would be almost as unlikely as a temporary revision of the second principle of thermodynamics, water freezing over fire, imagined by physicists, or the miracle of typewriting monkeys. Nevertheless, thus completed and perfected, thanks to the research of Delafoy, E. Mallet, and Lund, the hypothesis of Violeta do and on the transmission of certain Egyptian diagrams to the Arabs, then to the Phoenicians, then through the intermediary of the Greco-Nestorian school of Alexandria is quite plausible. Astronomically, the Great Pyramid can be the nomenon of the great year, as well as the metronome, whose harmony, often misunderstood, echoes throughout Greek art, Gothic architecture, the Renaissance, first Renaissance, and in any art that rediscovers the divine proportion and the pulsation of life. Beautiful, beautiful. Well said. All right. Page 234. Wow. at my spirit energy. Just gotta breathe. But that's why I came on here early. So I knew it was always prepared. So just breathe with me for a second. Thank you. Thank you. This is big. This is what you can do when you're at true peace and balance. No worries, no doubts. Came on here. I said, so much going on. Feeling the energy from Kilauea. I mean, a huge eruption. Just feeling all of it. And that's why it's important for meditation to be able to just bring it into a center balance. Master our world. Give thanks, thankful, grateful, thankful for all I have now and all that's coming to me. All right, let's pick it back up. This 11th chapter. Woof, I flow. The author also quotes Abbé Moreau's opinion that the Great Pyramid does not represent the groping between beginnings of Egyptian civilization and science, but rather the crowning of a culture that had attained its apogee and before disappearing, probably wished to leave future generations a proud testimonial of its superiority. This astronomical and mathematical knowledge, instead of completely vanishing from Black Africa, has left traces that Marcel Griot was perceptive enough to detect among the Dogon, however astounding that may seem today. On numerous occasions, reference has been made to the fact the Greeks borrowed their gods from Egypt. Here is the proof. Almost all the names of the gods came into Greece from Egypt. My inquiries prove that they were all derived from a foreign source, and my opinion is that Egypt furnished the greater number. Since the Egyptian origin of civilization and the extensive borrowing of the Greeks from the Egyptians are historically evident, we may well wonder with Amelino why, despite those facts, most people stress the role played by Greece while overlooking that of Egypt. The reason for this attitude can be detected merely by recalling the root of the question. As Egypt is a Negro country with a civilization created by blacks, any thesis tending to prove the contrary would have no future. Plain and simple. The protagonists of such theories are not unaware of this. So it is wiser and safer to strip Egypt simply and most discreetly of all its creations in favor of a really white nation or Greece. This false attribution to Greece of the values of a so called white Egypt reveals a profound contradiction that is not the least important proof of Egypt's Negro origin. Notwithstanding the opinion of Andre Siegfried, the black is clearly capable of creating technique. He is the very one who first created it at the time when all the white races were steeped in barbarism, were merely and barely fit for civilization. When we say that the ancestors of the blacks who today live mainly in Black Africa were the first to invent mathematics, astronomy, the calendar, sciences, in general arts, religion, agriculture, social organization, medicine, writing, technique, architecture, that they were the first to erect buildings out of 6 million tons of stone, the Great Pyramid, as architects and engineers, not simply as unskilled laborers that built the immense temple of Karnak, the forest of columns with its famed hypostyle hall, large enough to hold Notre Dame and in its towers, that they sculpted the first colossal statues, colossi of Memnon, etc. When we say all that, we are merely expressing the plain, unvarnished truth that no one today can refute by arguments worthy of the name. Consequently, the black man must become able to restore the continuity of his national historic past, to draw from it the moral advantage needed to reconquer his place in the modern world without falling into the excesses of Nazism in reverse for insofar as one can speak of a race, the civilization that is his might have been created by any other human race placed in so favorable and so unique a setting. Ah, what a rush. And we completed chapter 11. The crowd goes crazy. The champions are both rated live on the light. Yes. Shake at the dia. Shake at the dia. Cheikh, Diop, champion, putting all the dots together. Yes. Completion of chapter 11. Contribution of Ethiopia, Nubia, and Egypt. Thank you so much for being here in this peaceful part of YouTube where we read books and learn from masters. A master fitness trainer, Uriel Riley. Fine days and nights. Day what? 17,126. So grateful and thankful. So grateful and thankful. All I have now and all that is coming to me. Wow. Let's ring the bell for another 11. 11. Master number. Thank you so much for being here. Highest heart love. Thank you for reading with us, part of the book lovers community. Let's have a glass of love water and reverence for all those that have made it. We love you so much. So grateful and thankful. To those that have elevated, greatest Curtis mate, we honor you and love you. For your journey, have a glass of love water. Thank you for all the art you've given us. Thank you for shining your light while you are here with us. Eyes on. I love you. I love you. I love you. What a breathe. Thank you. Gratitude. Much love. Thank you for being here. Highest heart, love, and honor. Yeah, we don't speculate on this, and that's why it's the most important to live your life and experience things so you know and you're not guessing. So I could come on here and I give you these book readings. It's for free, it's for the long range. And so you can experiment with things in your life with you, and then you can build your life. That's what we do. Like even with the pine cones, right? You make the pine cone pyramid. Ants to this day still build pyramids. Mm-hmm. They do it all the time. Everyone plays their part. And so as the light workers of the world, it's most important that we continue to hone our skills. And we get better. And we shake it up. Reading books on YouTube. This is the 13th book we've read on this channel. You go back and check out books, read with them. I see the numbers just keep going up and up and up, and I'm like, yes! The people are getting this for the next generation. That's why, I want to keep it free, not gatekeeping any of this information. That's why I wrote the harmonic vibrational, and, we'll get there you'll get your healing manual. It's coming, but first is manifesting dreams. manifested dreams my whole entire life from the beginning. So thankful and grateful for all I have now and all that is coming to me. Let's sing I love you to our friends and family. Those solar returns, fine days and nights. I'll see when we'll reconvene. All right? Thank you. Peace, peace. Ay, 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 ay. Love, 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 love you. You. Ay, 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 ay. Love, 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 love. You. You know it, because I love myself. Thank you for being here and reading books with us. Thank you for the likes and subs. We are pushing towards 700 on this peaceful part of YouTube. So grateful and thankful. Look how far we've came. Remember, look up. Go out, take a walk, and shine in your light. Give thanks. And Victoria, thank you so much for the donation of the recyclables. Much love. Highest heart love. And to Michael as well. Gratitude. Highest heart love. Y'all have a wonderful day and I'll see you soon when we reconvene in the next chapter. Peace, peace.